cheaper, of course, but it's harder to regulate the temperature. That's why you definitely need a thermometer if you're not used to using the hot stones on the person's body. And a cover you can actually use here to put over the roaster if the rocks are too cool, so it'll actually retain the heat longer. Or if the water's too hot, if you need it to cool down, you can just take off the top for a while and turn down the temperature, so after a few minutes it should start cooling down then. So that's the difference with the roasters, but with electric frying pans, it's not going to hold as many rocks compared to the roaster. But if you're just going to use a few just for like the back region, it's ideal because it's a lot smaller. But these roasters, you might actually want a little rolling table so you can actually pull it close to the massage table to make it a little bit more convenient. So you don't have to keep running and getting rocks all the time. So you can keep that flow of the massage as much as you can. Also with crock pots, the problem with crock pots is there's so many different sizes and it's hard to regulate the temperature. So it usually just has a low and a high. That's all it usually has. And it's actually harder to find the rocks. But again, some people just have a small, really small crock pot just for the stones that you're going to be using for putting in between the toes and for the face, for those regions. So just think about those different kind of options. Okay, next thing I'm going to show you is how to use a pillowcase or a towel to wrap the rocks in. So what you're basically going to use is a pillowcase here, or a towel. Place 3 to 4 rocks. I usually use 4. Then you're going to wrap it once. Wrap it again, so that's the way it's not going to fall out at all. But just make sure you find the center. Do a little indent in here. So if you are going to have them lay on these rocks for the cervical region, when they're face up, or supine, most people call it, so the cervical vertebrae is not laying on the rocks. And sometimes you can actually use these bigger rocks right in there too, so it actually elevates a little bit higher then. But these areas you can actually put on the arm, so it's not going to slide off. Also the shin region, that's another area you'll be using these at. Also the feet region is really beneficial too. Let me show you how we're going to use for the bigger towels. So if the client is laying face down, prone, this is the spine here. Make sure you don't put any rocks on the actual spine. So especially if you are going to be walking the body, compressing the rocks on there, you don't want to be compressing on any bony areas. So especially in the low back, right in the floating rib region, make sure you're not putting a lot of pressure right there. But what's really nice about this, so when you put some rocks on here, and you actually want it to expose the whole back, you can actually wrap it up like this and actually move it on another area of the body, so it's more convenient. So the back is exposed then, so you can actually start using the rocks to start massaging them. Okay, but again, you want 2 to 3 bath-sized towels is more ideal, and the thicker the better for the towels, just because it retains the it won't actually burn the client then. But if you think they are too hot to actually hold on the body, just make sure you put maybe 2 or 3 layers. And you can even double up the layers too. So let's say for rocks like this, and you think the stones are too hot, just use another layer so you can put the rocks in the body. Or you can even triple or make it into 4s so you can retain it that way. But ideally, when you're using the rocks in the towel to retain the heat longer, you might want to actually cover up the rocks so they can retain the heat then. So just make sure you use this kind of treatment just so you don't have to keep replacing the rocks at all times then. So the longer you can keep the rocks in the body, the more you can use other rocks to actually massage them. So certain areas are going to always stay warm on the client then. But after 10 or 15 minutes, once they start cooling down more, the ones that are actually just placed on the body, you might want to replace those too, or just take off a layer or 2, so you can go down to even 1 layer. And then once they're okay with that, then you can actually place them right on the body. So again, with really cold stones, make sure you don't put them right on the body either. But make sure 10 degrees less than your actual body temperature is ideal. But anything more than that, you can actually give them frostbite then. But any 10 degrees higher than their body temperature, for heat, you can actually burn them too. So always watch the reactions. And it's a really good idea to actually have more light in the room, so you can actually see if they have are developing too much hyperemia. So that means too much blood flow to those regions. So they're more likely to actually burn. And some contraindications with that is definitely beware. If they've had severe burns in the past, you might not want to actually place rocks on there. Or if you do, make sure you have 2 to 3 layers just to be safe, because their nerve sensation is going to be more dead, and it's going to actually more likely to burn them, and they can't feel that burn then. So just make sure you're aware of that at all times then. Okay?